Hello and welcome to The Good, The Bad and The Worst, a podcast where we watch movie trilogies and decide which movie is an open amateur dancing non-Federation steps. I'm your host Griner, and joining me today...
I'm Luke Morgan, and Pam Short's broken both her legs, and I want to podcast with you guys.
Did my heart love till now, forswear its sight, for I never saw true beauty till I saw this podcast.
We are doing the Red Curtain Trilogy, Baz Luhrmann's Red Curtain Trilogy, Strictly Ballroom, Romeo and Juliet, and Moulin Rouge. Boys, when I announced we were going to be doing this trilogy, it was met with some sighs, with some venom, with some I hate Baz Luhrmann's. Tell me, why do you hate Baz Luhrmann, Conan?
Can you first explain to me how this is a trilogy, please?
So, it's Baz Luhrmann's first three movies. They were released as a DVD box set called the Red Curtain Trilogy.
Oh,
his answer would be, it's him exploring love through three different mediums, through dance, through poetry or Shakespearean English,
Yes.
and through song. That's what he has said about it. So, whether you agree with that or not, that's up to you. It's more of a trilogy than some of the other shit we've done.
Whoa.
It was officially released as a trilogy.
He's calling out your ones, Conan.
S. Craig Zala does not... and Christopher Nolan did not take kindly to that.
It was released as official trilogy on physical media. You should respect that more than anyone.
No, you're right. I actually do.
And to be fair, I was Googling unofficial trilogies the other day, and a Reddit thread popped up, and someone mentioned the Red Curtain trilogy as well, and I was like, okay.
No, it's got a Wikipedia page, so it is legit. I'm sorry, I take it back. I take my snide chortles away. Baz Luhrmann. Why don't I like Baz Luhrmann? Well, let me count the ways. Shakespeare. That was good. I think he's a bit of a hack. I think he is, like so many Australian celebrities, I think he is one of the few. He's very overrated. I think he's one of the few that we've got. He's one of the few that makes it big internationally. And so Australia especially holds him up like the second coming of the Messiah. It happens with like our comedians. You ever listen to David Hughes? Not a funny guy. Why did he have so many radio shows? Because he's one of the only comedians we have. Why is the same three blonde women hosting every single reality show we have in this country? Because there's only three famous ones apparently.
And they've been doing it for 20 years.
And one of them was from this movie.
Yeah, and they're never good. They're never talented, but they just get it, and they're like, "Yeah, that's what our film is." It drives me up the wall because we actually do have talented filmmakers and artists, but they often go to other countries where the film scene, the music scene, whatever they're able to work in. And the ones who stay in Australia goes, "Yes, they are the truest gods amongst men." And Baz Luhrmann, I think, is the ultimate.
That doesn't
one,
describe Baz Luhrmann, though. I don't think he's continued to work in Australia, though.
No, but Australia is still like, he is our patron saint. Australians love him. He is constantly revered as like one of the great Australian filmmakers working. He made a movie called Australia.
And everyone in Australia was like, oh.
Exactly.
Like Sunrise and all them and Koshi, they were just like,
my nana saw that movie. That's the only movie I know that my nana saw in the cinema.
This is the best movie of all time.
I'll give you that.
Like every talk show was like, this is our Lord of the Rings. This is amazing.
Yes. And it's criminal. And this would all be well and good if he was, I don't know, Heath Ledger, someone who was truly talented and truly remarkable and was doing it. But watching these movies, it reminds me that what I think I really dislike about Baz Luhrmann, this comes back to him being a hack, is that he's just a DJ. He remixes things. Everything he does is cliche, has been done 1,000 times before, and he just combines modern music with a period piece. Or he does some frenetic camera angles, or he infuses an energy to it. And he understands that music gets people into things. He understands the ingredients of movies, but I don't think he has anything to say. I don't think he truly believes anything. I don't think he's got any insight. He is the most unartistic artist in the world because he truly has he's nothing. He contributes nothing except look at the dresses, look at the costumes, look at the songs. He's a hack in the truest sense of the word.
Luke,
so
you just agree wholeheartedly?
Fuck you, Baz Luhrmann.
I agree with Conan, but all I'll say is like, okay, he's definitely not my style. Like, I just do not like his films. You know, I don't like Conan mentioned the frenetic camera, the acting type in a lot of these movies where it's just like so over the top and all this, and it's just I find them annoying to watch some of these films. And I before this I'd watched Strictly Ballroom in high school, and I'd only seen out of his films Great Gatsby. And Great Gatsby, I watched kind of with hype because I was excited because I was on a massive Leo kick. Like there was just a period in my life where I was just like, Leo is the greatest thing that's ever graced this earth. I want to watch everything he's ever been in. I'd also seen Romeo and Juliet when I was very young, so I didn't remember that well. But I watched Great Gatsby, and I just remember being so bored, finding it so lifeless, and finding it so I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. Artificial. It just I didn't like, and I know it's the style of it where it's like it doesn't. It's not meant to look realistic. Like I know, like the way Moulin Rouge, where it goes through the city streets, and it just looks like really bad CGI. And I get it's like this weird thing where it's like they're telling a story or whatever. But I found that with Great Gatsby, where I was like, oh, it feels weird. Like what am I watching? Like I don't like this movie. And I just remember it going so long. Great Gatsby felt like it was 3.5 hours, and really not liking that film to the point where I was like, okay, I don't like Baz Luhrmann. Then when Australia came out, reading the reviews for that and just being like, oh, it's another 3.5 hour film. Like, okay, he's a bit full of himself, Baz Luhrmann. And I've just always had this opinion of him. Now I've watched these movies and like it's confirmed, so I'm fine with it. But no. Like he's got a style. He was obviously big for a period of time there when some of these movies came out, but it's just not for me.
Grata, please explain why you like him.
No, look, hold on. Baz Luhrmann is not my favourite director. I probably wouldn't choose to watch these movies by myself, like on my own, by any means. I am going to come out and defend him, and probably stronger than I actually feel about him, just because I feel like there's so much hate in this podcast for him, and I think it is a little unfair.
Okay.
But like, by no means do I think he's a fantastic director. I agree. I don't think he has a whole lot to say. Like, his movies don't have some great and deep meaning. But I think it's okay to make movies that don't have a whole lot to say. I think it's okay to make movies that are just a showy puff piece if you find them entertaining, which you guys don't, and I do appreciate that. I understand that. Again, they're not my favourite movies ever by any means. But sitting and watching these movies with my wife, who sings along to every lyric and swoons over every scene with Leo, like, these movies really appeal to her. She loves Baz Luhrmann. And that, I don't know, if you're with someone who likes something a lot, that does, I mean, maybe you guys don't have the same emotional intelligence as me, but that rubs off on you a little bit, right? Like, you feel that, it's almost like empathy, right? Like, you can feel their passion for it, and it rubs off on you, and you start to like it, you start to enjoy yourself too.
I get that completely. I know my range of movies expanded when I started dating my wife. I know music, where all of a sudden I got super into these people who now I'm like, oh God, I don't like them, but it's because my wife loved those artists and loved those movies. And so I definitely went down that path. And I do agree with that, where stuff I watch with her, I feel differently than some stuff I watch on my own. There's some stuff I enjoy more on my own because they're more like my old crappy stuff that I used to like. Maybe I would have enjoyed more watching with her. I watched these by myself.
Did you guys want to come watch this with my wife?
I should have watched it with you guys. Should have come over and watched it with you guys.
Had a watch party, yeah.
And So I get it. But Grana, you like musicals, don't you? Though, because even if it's through.
But I didn't like musicals before I met my wife, right? Like, had no interest in them. And even when she was watching them, I'm like, yes, I can go play video games. But over time, she watches enough of them, and I'm in the room, and she plays the soundtrack when we're in the car, and I'm singing along to, High School Musical 3.
Yeah.
And I'm into it. Like, what can I say? These, and I don't know. Like, I've seen 2 of these movies as stage shows and had a great time, because everyone else. One of them was very recently. Yes, I saw Moulin Rouge only a couple months ago. Like, everyone else is really into it. Everyone's dressed up. It's just, I don't know. There's a vibe. It's a fun experience. Yeah.
But, like, passion and energy are contagious. I completely agree with that. I'm not saying, like, if my wife was into this, like, I would get a lot more out of it. You're right.
Yeah.
Sharing in things that people enjoy and are passionate about makes you appreciate something. Part of that is you appreciate their energy, and you're just appreciating their passion, the person's passion more than what they're passionate about. And that's fine. I think my big problem with Luhrmann comes back to the fact that you say it's all right for people to make things that are just entertaining and puff. I agree. But for a guy who tries so hard to be like, look how poignant I am and look at my understanding of art. I'm sorry, have you seen Australia? That movie's obsessed with being like,
I also want to say I really don't like Australia or The Great Gatsby, and I haven't seen Elvis. My Baz Luhrmann experience is limited to these 3 movies, and that's what we're talking about tonight. And I think there is some value in these movies more than you are giving them credit for.
I mean, there's value in terms of they make people feel a certain way, yeah. If we're talking about these 3 movies as they are, that's one thing. But discussing Baz Luhrmann, which is what we were doing.
Sure.
He's like, Moulin Rouge spends so long being like, art, love, that's why we are bohemians. We are the greatest revolutionaries in the world. Art and love change the world. They say those words over and over again. I'm like, there is no, I don't know if there's any art and love here. It is a guy who just loves dressing shit up. It's a guy who loves
manufactured. Yeah.
And it's a guy who loves being like, I can make you feel something primally, which is valuable, I agree. But I think there's a real hypocrisy to it when he's just like, I'm going to make you feel love and art with my love and art. I'm like, wait a minute, there's no love or art here at all. It's just no, it's bullshit. If he was, no.
Has Baz Luhrmann made plays?
Yes.
Musicals and stuff?
Yes.
Yeah, he should stay with that because it's obvious. No, as in like these feel like plays. They feel like plays. Yeah. But even I feel like the directing, as in how he's directed people to act, is in act as if in a play. Like I've done theatre myself, so I see this stuff where it's like, okay, it feels like I'm watching a play, but it's done in a movie, and I don't like that. I don't think it works. You know?
Yeah, I tend not to either as well. The other reason I hate him, I didn't mention, is I knew a guy who did work with him once, and he said he was a complete pretentious wanker.
Fair.
It's like, and I
imagine I wouldn't enjoy being in the same room as him.
And I still stand by it. I still stand by it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, next week we are.
I was just looking it up, but I think Strictly Ballroom it started as a play originally. Obviously, Romeo and Juliet is a stage production, and then
that's where
Moulin
I know
Rouge,
it
it's all very, I can understand.
Yeah,
it makes sense why they would be like that to me.
I don't know much.
I get it, but
Strictly
I don't
Ballroom is the least.
Works as a movie because I don't feel like, not even Strictly Ballroom. Let's talk about Moulin Rouge and Romeo and Juliet, but I feel like when you're watching and when they're acting as if they're in a play, but it's in the frame of a movie, it feels like bad acting. It feels like overacting because you overact when it's like this big grand thing, and then the performances aren't meant to be realistic. So I feel like I'm watching bad acting when I'm watching them films.
Fair enough. They are over the top. It is big
and I feel like it was less noticeable
agree.
in Strictly Ballroom because I felt like it was a lot more subdued, and I felt like it was a movie with dance around, like in certain parts in the movie, and there's characters and all that around. Some of them are over the top and all that stuff, but it felt the most movie-like of the 3.
All right. Before we start digging in like that, let's do our stats.
Sorry. Stats.
Okay, Strictly Ballroom had a budget of $3 million, made $11 million worldwide. Romeo plus Juliet, $14.5 million budget, made $147 million. And Moulin Rouge, $50 million budget, made $205 million. You can't deny the box office returns.
No, I want to come back to that. Finish the stats.
And then Metacritic scores 72 for Strictly Ballroom, 60 for Romeo plus Juliet, and 66 for Moulin Rouge.
Yeah, like these. It's funny talking about a Hangover last week, last fortnight, whatever. Where like these movies were like cultural touchstones. Baz Luhrmann has been a cultural touchstone. Like the entire world saw Moulin Rouge. I feel that movie was huge. Like that was it. Lady Marmalade was like on video hits and Rage every Saturday. The movie was everywhere. Freaking like Romeo and Juliet. I remember my brother had a poster of that in his room. Like Leo in the Hawaiian shirt is one of those like those top 10 iconic images.
Yep.
And just, yeah, like the box office speaks to that, right? Like he made an image. I made this comment on the letterbox, which I think I was very proud of. It's like, it's kind of easy to see why he became like this flamboyant, frenetic, just passion became so big to a cynical 90s Hollywood, right? Like, well, everyone else in the 90s was obsessed with postmodernism and disillusionment and being like, Fight Club and The Matrix and like the Gen X anxiety. This guy comes along from across the sea and he's just like, I love color and music and I love crazy excited camera angles and I have energy in my movies. You can see why people would be like, this is different, this is nice. And obviously, like, yeah, people yearn for it. They took to it and holy shit, his movies made influence. Like every single person I know saw Moulin Rouge. Australia, our school went to the cinema to see Australia as like a school outing.
Well,
like
the movie is way bigger than it deserved to be.
It totally was. And yeah, I'm not trying to. I want my criticism of him to in no way be like, oh, he's not successful, and so he gets too much praise. He's successful, and he gets the praise. He gets as much praise as any successful person should be. It's just the quality.
Just more personal.
It's personally disliking.
It feels a little personal. Like, I don't know. I kind of expected you guys to come and say these movies aren't for me. I can respect them, but they aren't for me. But it sounds like not only are these movies not for you, they're actively bad and you hate them.
No. I'll defend one of these. I'll defend actually two of these.
Okay, cool. All right.
But I will never defend Baz Luhrmann as long as I live.
Well, let's get into the actual trilogy then. Strictly Ballroom. A maverick dancer risks his career by forming an unusual routine and sets out to succeed with a new partner.
I didn't like it. I loved it.
You had me in the first half. I'm gonna lie. It's funny that like when you mentioned going to watch Australia at the cinema, and I just sort of just pieced it. Like I've watched the other two of these films, Romeo plus Juliet plus Strictly Ballroom, in high school. It's like you must watch Baz Luhrmann. He is like the icon of Australia. So you will watch and study him. Forget modern history. Watch this.
You've got costumes to research.
And then like you failed your history of Germany. I watched this trilogy way out of whack. I feel like I watched this last, Moulin Rouge second, and I started with Romeo plus Juliet. So I don't know what the actual order is, but this I actually enjoyed this. Like I wouldn't watch it again, I don't think, but like after watching the other two, which I wasn't a big fan of, I got to this one and I was like, okay, no, this feels like a classic Aussie 90s movie. Like I was like, I can feel like I've seen this 100 times just being in my like lounge room TV and my parents watching it. I see characters where I'm like, I know people like that person. Like I know three of that people. There's the Ric Flair Ken dude. Like I was like, okay, these are Australian characters and I can absolutely see it. I like the story. I think the acting's fine. They're playing up the roles and stuff like that. This one, I was able to sit down and actually enjoy this, and it's a brisk hour and a half. I love movies that are an hour and a half.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I was surprised how much I actually enjoyed this movie because I have seen it before, and I've seen it on stage, but I've never actually sat down and watched this movie. It's definitely been on while I've been around, and it's very over the top, but I really enjoy these over the top Australian characters. Like Les, just how beetroot red he is in some scenes in this movie is amazing. Like his mum just going off a tree about shit is hilarious. He's I don't know, every character in this I think is really funny, and I love movies where they take you into a world where people really care about something, even if I don't care about it. And just seeing the passion that they have and the I don't know, like, they're all really dedicated to the rules. You've got to dance this way. Like, I don't care about dancing. I didn't look at the dancing and enjoy that part of it, but I enjoyed that story. And I really enjoyed this movie.
Yeah, passion is contagious. And yeah, exactly. Like systems and rules, things that people work. You go, okay, this is how people are invested in this. It's like watching movies about gardening or something. I don't care about this, but I like that people love it. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, this movie's good. This movie's like, I'm shocked that I enjoyed this movie as much as I did. It really goes like this. There is a crazy kineticism to it. It is just, it's never stopping. It is like, pretty much from the first scene where they're after the dance and they're in the preparation room. It's just going back and forth, and they're like all dancing with different partners, and they're explaining bits of the story, and like it's really funny, and it's just really, I don't know, it's really like gets you into it because it's just going back and forth, and it's not stopping, and you're getting all this exposition, and you just like you feel like you're a dancer, you're dancing back and forth, learning the story, and it's like that
The movie
captures that
starts
feeling
in a
well.
dance.
Yeah, and so kind of straight away you're sort of in that and you feel it, and like that works really well. This is like I said, look, this feels like an indie film. This feels like he's one of those filmmakers, like in the same vein as Tarantino and I don't know, like Smith. These '90s filmmakers who were just like we love movies and we love this stuff and we love the theatrics and we got to make something we're passionate about. And this feels like Baz doing what he's passionate about because it's an ugly duckling story, but it's set in this world of dance that he clearly knows and is passionate about.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, it's so riddled with the cliche. Like I said, the Australian parents are so cliched. Some of the guys being so red. It's like even things like the iconic Coca-Cola sign, even though they had built that, it's very reminiscent of King. Like there's a very infamous one on King's Cross. Like it's got all this Australiana to it, and it works as he's just this. It works as like this passionate vision of the Australian dance scene.
Yeah,
like yeah.
I was just about to say, like Griner's background, like the Coke with like the clothesline in front of it, is such an iconic thing. Like the second it pops up in the movie, I was like, oh my god, like it's that. It's like it's iconic. It feels like one of Australia's iconic movies.
Yeah.
That I feel like everyone knows or everyone has seen at some point or knows about it and stuff like that. All the characters are great. Like I love Fran. It's like, yeah, I don't know. You go down to like the local bowls club and you see all these characters.
Yeah,
basically.
Yeah.
Exactly. I love how the drunk guys dance. I don't know. He's the real
Ric Flair.
pussy dude, Ric Flair, and he's drunk. He's like, push it, and to his part. I don't know. Everybody is just so over the top and so funny. His mum's weird relationship with Les, like. The poor dad.
Mum just criticizing the dad at every chance she can.
Yeah. He's just sort of those terrible glasses. Like I said earlier, the line where she's like, I want that guy to walk in and say she's broken both her legs. He's just like, he walks in and does it. I lost my shit. It's really funny. Yeah. It's like, that's because he's having fun. This feels like, to your point before, Luke, this feels like a movie, even though it was a stage play, but it feels like you're watching an artificial movie. That's part of the point. I don't know, there's something about like it's not taking itself too seriously, even though it's dealing with really serious. It's trying to deal with like some heavy themes. It combines it well with just this larrikin, like Australian larrikinism, right? Where it's like this is someone's passion and they believe that, but at the same time, it's just Aussies doing Aussie stuff, and that's really fun.
But that's what's so fascinating about it, Lo, is it feels so Aussie, but it's about something. It's not about football. It's not about stuff that you would consider Australian. It's about ballroom dancing and like these costumes and all that. It's not something you think, oh, that's true blue Aussie. But it kind of is. Right. It's about characters who have heritage outside of Australia. But it still feels really Aussie because of like Australia is obviously very multicultural. And it just feels really Australian. While Australia, the movie, doesn't.
Ironically doesn't, yeah. And I think that's what makes this movie good, is like you can feel Luhrmann's kind of channeling that. He's like, because there's probably some sense of that in him, right? Like this Australian guy who's really into the theatrics and really into the art scene. And I mean, I think we probably all experience that to some part. Like classic Australian culture is not very supportive of things artistic.
Yep.
And so for this guy growing up in, when was he born? The 60s or something? Yeah, 60. So he's born in 62. So this guy growing up in the 80s, 70s and 80s, where he would have been into art and drama and singing and dancing, would have probably been pretty alienating. And so in this, you're right, he's channeling that. He's like, this is true Australianness, but it's a very un-Australian thing on the surface. And there's something really kind of poignant about that, tapping into it. It's like, this is just as Australian as anything, because Australia...
It's almost like he has something to say, right?
He does, that's it. In this one movie, in his first movie, he does.
Sure.
And I'm like, I can see why.
Then he gets popular and gets a big head. And
yes, that is
No, let's not start
right.
shitting on him yet. We're not even on the movies you don't like. Come on,
in 1992, if I'd seen this, I would have been like, fuck yeah, Baz. Bring Australia home. Make us great. Make this nation great again.
Just quickly talking about like this. The Coca-Cola sign, like there's also all the dresses in this movie, which there's some really wild ones. His Baz Luhrmann's wife does like the costume and set design for all of his movies. She's won multiple Oscar awards. She's honestly probably the more successful of the two of them, at least from that perspective.
Yes,
And props to her because there's some really iconic stuff. I think in all of these movies, whether you like the movie or not.
Without a doubt. I think you're right. She is actually probably more to. She contributes a lot more to his success than I think he does, and that anyone wants to admit. No one talks about that, which is kind of weird. Like, because of these movies they live and die on their sets and costumes.
Yep.
And that's all her doing. And I'm like,
he just happened to have a camera that day.
How much less are these movies without her? I wonder. Yeah. It's an interesting thought. Like, it's hard to know how much he contributes to that, but it's worth pointing out anyway.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Do we want to say anything else about Strictly Ballroom? I want to learn the Bogo Pogo.
Bogo Pogo.
Show me that move, please. I just love the final dance where Scott and Fran are doing this like passionate dance, and then all the ballroom dancers are like prancing around, and it feels so fake and put on, and it's a really good juxtaposition between the two of them. Obviously, it's the whole point of the movie as well, but I don't know, that scene is just very well crafted, I think. And I love that his dancing is so powerful, it knocks over the commissioner and all the awards, and his dad is just there with tears pouring down his face.
Yeah, that's the scene where you see his dad, like, sort of in the dark, watching the tapes from his past. Like, again, seen it a million times, but always really powerful. Just this, kind of this failed artist who's never had the chance.
Yep.
And it's good. Yeah, it's like got a really sad sort of story there, but then really nice at the end where he sort of his son delivers that promise that he never got.
A life lived in fear is a life half lived.
Yeah, some good moments.
Something to say.
Great philosophy. Something to say when he was a young man. I agree.
I'd get that sticker put on my car.
I'm going to get that as a tattoo, actually.
Yes, do it.
Such
is life.
Romeo plus Juliet. Shakespeare's famous play is updated to the hip modern suburb of Verona, still retaining its original dialogue.
All right, Luke.
Yeah, come on.
You don't like Shakespeare. You don't like William Shakespeare.
I'm fine with Shakespeare, man. I'm fine with Shakespeare.
Doesn't sound like
I get that it's this like unique thing, and it's like you got to praise like he's thinking outside the box and bringing it to this modern setting and all this sort of stuff. It doesn't work for me. Like, it's annoying to watch. Like, that opening scene at the gas station is one of the worst scenes I've ever seen in my life. Any movie. I watched that and almost quit. I was like, what is going on? This is annoying me. These characters are annoying me. They're just, I don't know. It just triggered something in me. Seeing these people, like, the way they're reacting, like they're all thugs and they've got their guns, but then they're like all scared and like run backwards and like tripping over themselves when someone like, moves towards them, and just like the language. I'm fine with Shakespeare. I did theatre. I did drama. I love.
You must be a terrible theatre student.
No,
Shakespeare.
But it just doesn't work in this setting. I don't enjoy watching people act like this.
So does it work in a in a Shakespearean setting, right? If this movie was set in Shakespearean times, it works better for you?
Yeah.
What changes?
I still think I would have the thing, because it makes this is like not of this world, like the Shakespeare in its old setting. I'm like, okay, yeah, I believe that. I believe people talked like that back then, even if they didn't. It's like, okay, I buy that. It's a different thing. It's got this setting. It's like, when it comes to modern, it's these people doing it. It's just something jarring to me where I'm like, it feels, and it goes into the whole thing of where it feels like I'm watching people overact. Like they don't talk like this. So people are overacting. No, they don't talk like
this. That's right.
No, but it's like, so it's acting like they're in a play. It's like they're not even acting it out realistically. Like, I would have rather them take the themes of Romeo plus Juliet and like the actual story itself, and if they're going to update it to modern, just update it to modern, have modern language, have modern people talking with the basic structure of that story, with the dot points and where you get to and gangs fighting. That's interesting. I would enjoy watching this movie of like in a modern day with gangs fighting and all this sort of stuff, and it actually be real, like how we would perceive a modern movie about gangs fighting, but with this theme of like, okay, and it's this tragic love story of these two. Yeah, they overreact just by taking their own lives. They've only been dating for like a day, but it's with
So
the old language. I don't know. It just doesn't work for me, brother. That's all.
So you want 10 things I hate about you, basically, is what you're saying.
You want Clueless.
Yeah.
Like this, that has what you're asking for has been done with other Shakespearean plays, and they're all good movies too. Like I won't deny it. I appreciate this movie though because it does feel really unique. Like
it does.
And Baz Luhrmann's definitely got a vision for it, I think, that I appreciate, and I think it works a lot of the time. Like, converting guns to swords feels weird when you're trying to threaten people, right? Because...
But very clever. Very clever.
Do you really think it's clever? I don't think you do think it's clever.
No, I do. I
feel like you're being facetious. Because
no, I'm not.
I actually quite like that opening scene. Like, I'm not the biggest Shakespeare fan. I find the dialogue hard to follow, but... I mean, you can follow it, and there's obviously the context clues that give you the idea of what's going on as well. Like, and I feel like this is the kind of movie you could watch and appreciate more over time as you understand more about Shakespeare or whatever. But like, I think that opening scene is a lot of fun. I actually really, really enjoy that opening scene. I'm like, do you bite your thumb at me? I do bite my thumb, sir, but not at you. Like, it's extremely over the top. But I don't know how else you do Shakespearean acting.
Just gave me Zoolander vibes.
Yeah, you're right. Like, there is a bit of Zoolander vibes in there. If they were using like the gas bows at a fight instead of guns, you're
I would be like, oh my god, right? I've put in the wrong movie.
Frame remake.
I'm sorry. Look, it's very unique.
It's okay if you don't like it. I don't really care.
This is the one I will say. Like, it's not for me. Like, I will say the second half of the movie I enjoyed more. I feel like it gets to a certain point, probably with the showdown with Mercutio, and like around that time, from then on, I was more engaged. Where I was like, okay, I'm into the world. I feel like it's calmed down a bit. I feel like at the start it's so bombastic with this like overacting, and everyone's like all crazy, and like it was too much energy for me on like on a weekend morning where I just wanted to get up and just watch the movie.
That's a weird time to watch.
I know, it was like 8 a.m. I was like, all right.
No, so you did this to yourself.
Watch Romeo plus Juliet.
It's interesting, right? That is exactly like that is where you start to say, okay, Baz he's realizing he has tricks. He's realizing he has something he can sell, and it's just this crazy camera going everywhere, and it's like slam cut to here, frenetic energy, blah blah. And it's like, I don't know. Where in Strictly Ballroom's used pretty like very appropriately, and this one there is, I don't know. It feels overdone. It feels very, especially in the opening. You're right. It's like because it's trying to tell you like this is not your mum's Shakespeare.
No.
This is Shakespeare for us cool kids, and it slows down. Like he does stop using that after a while, and it becomes a little bit more classical and theatrical.
Yeah.
Towards the second half. But yeah, there is such an energy in the first one. It's almost like nauseating. Like you get motion sickness at times.
I actually feel like it's from the fish tank scene. Like once he's at that party and they meet, from there, I'm like, okay, I'm with this movie. Like I'm fine with it. The first half really just took me out where I was like, this is too much. Like it's too much energy for me. And it's like, feels so chaotic and frenetic. And I found it annoying. But yeah, I feel like once it does take a breath and slows down and focus on that, then I was able to enjoy it more.
Yeah. So what's interesting, like because this starts a whole huge phenomenon, right, of modern Shakespeare adaptations. You start to get there's a Hamlet with Ethan Hawke where he's set in like modern day New York. There's a movie called O that's Othello set in a high school basketball scene.
Do they all keep the Shakespearean dialogue?
So they keep the Shakespearean dialogue. There's an Australian Macbeth set in Gangland, Melbourne. There's a great line in Community where he even says, "We did a modern retelling of Macbeth in Gangland, Chicago." Like this becomes a recurring joke, right? That this is the cool way to do it.
And then it died.
And it kind of every 5 years one comes out and it kind of dies because I think the key difference is those ones are all just literal translations, right? They just go, let's just put it in a modern normal setting. And it feels really jarring. This kind of works though, because this doesn't feel quite like the real world. This is like a weird, This is kind of like
surreal world.
this is like set in an alternate history where language just never evolved.
Yeah.
Language, and so it's like everything else has progressed, but for some reason language stagnated. But so everything's a bit weird. There's a giant Jesus statue in somewhere that's maybe Mexico or Florida. We don't know.
There's a church filled with neon crosses.
The neon,
Yeah.
that's cool. I got to admit, I was like, okay,
I really
like.
I like his style in this movie. Like a lot of those choices, I think are really good.
Listen, this movie looks stunning. What I would actually love to do is I would love to watch this movie without dialogue, like actually just as like a silent movie, because I think it probably still works. Because there is just so many scenes of that, like Leo on the beach in a suit, washed up, smoking, writing poetry. It's like I know everything.
On this like deserted stage that's crumbling. Like
this crumbling amphitheater. Like
stage in the beach,
it's like
it's cool.
That picture sells 1,000 words. And that all worked, like all the theatrics, all the imagery, all the really.
It's got the
like
knight's armor on. That's cool.
The party scene's really good, and like you just get it all. And so, ironically, like Shakespeare is almost who Baz Luhrmann shouldn't adapt because it's like he doesn't need dialogue. His strength is in the visual. But it kind of there were parts in this where I grew tired of it. Where when I'm trying to watch Leo have like charming banter with his friend and they're just like saying Shakespearean lines, like this feels weird. This feels very odd. Especially when they've been getting a car out of throwing keys and smoking cigarettes. But then there are other times where I'm like, no, this feels totally legit because this is kind of a surreal world. This is its own weird, unique creation. So honestly, I went back and forth. Like when I saw this first, I loved it. When I watched it again this time, I'm like, half of it I kind of got sick of, half of it totally gets me. But yeah, like kudos to Baz for just creating another trend, like modern theatrical retellings.
Trendsetter.
He has a bit. And again, this creating one of the most iconic films of the 90s.
Also, like, is this the movie that took Leo's career off? Like, is this the movie that made him the heartthrob he is today? Or was for a long time anyway. I guess he's kind of aged out of that. But
was this before Titanic?
Yep. There was Gilbert Grape before this, but he wasn't that in the
Gilbert Grape
movie.
Was huge. Like, he was
Oscar
nominated.
He wasn't a sexy dreamboat.
No, that's right. He was a child in that movie, though. Basically,
he wasn't the biggest person in that movie.
No. The Beach, I think, came out just after this.
That was 2000, I think.
That was quite a bit after this, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, when was this movie? This was 96.
96.
No, 95, 96. So he had the Basketball
Titanic was
Diaries.
97.
Yeah, so Basketball Diaries was the one where that put him into the sort of like the consciousness, because that's when he's still got the hair, he's got the 90s hair, that's when he's like a heartthrob. But then you're right, this is big, like this is the movie that truly makes him the thing.
I mean, my wife was like absolutely swooning over him in this movie, and I remember people, like all the dudes wanted Claire Danes, like she was the hot, and she went on to do not a lot, like she had a kind of a resurgence later on in that TV show Homeland,
yeah.
But between those two, like not a heap.
No, that's true. That's it's very different career trajectories. But I think you're right, this is the movie that cements him as what like the heartthrob that was sort of going to define the next 15 years. Like without this movie, I don't think Leo gets Titanic. He might get Titanic, but I don't know.
Already shooting Titanic when this is
he would have been
coming
shooting
out,
Titanic.
I don't know.
It came out the year after. James Cameron, he would have been filming this since Leo was like 12.
He would have been filming this movie in between scenes on Titanic.
He would have been filming Avatar 2 during Titanic. So.
It'd be interesting to know what happens if there's none. This doesn't happen though, and then Titanic comes out. Right? Is Titanic, because Titanic wouldn't be the phenomenon it is without Leo. Without Leo as the selling point from Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah.
So I think
Paul Rudd is in this movie, which I had totally forgotten.
Me too. Weird, hey?
And he's also in Clueless, which makes me giggle because he's into Shakespearean adaptations very close together. I don't know. Harold Perrineau blew me away as Mercutio in this movie. Like, I think he's really, really good. The scene at the party where he gets his cross dress on, and then the scenes on the beach. I enjoyed everything he did in this movie. And John Leguizamo is good too. He doesn't feel like he's in it as much, but
his role is so stupid though. He's too bold. He is so like.
I mean, blame Shakespeare for that.
I know, this is the thing. Like, Shakespeare is pretty like there are some Shakespeare plays that are super dumb, like goofy like this. So the theatrical flamboyance isn't a new thing. But at the same time, the scene where he's like tearing off his coat and he's on his knees getting his gun, I'm like, come on, all right, this is. This is a bit
Um,
whack.
I know we've moved past the conversation. I just want to say Titanic started filming in July. This film came out in October. So
Yeah, right.
Well, do you know when this finished filming? This probably
this,
finished filming before July.
yeah. So
Yeah,
he would have finished filming it, but it wouldn't have
Yeah.
been released yet.
Oh no, okay. Yeah, look, well, all right. I hand that to you. Right, you win. You get it.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
I was
So
wrong,
needed.
Luke. I was wrong.
But yeah, no, Harold Perrineau, like I only know him from Lost, like, but I remember watching like the backstage stuff on Lost and people being like, "Oh, it's Mercutio." Like, I was so pumped to have Mercutio on set, like filming Lost. And yeah, he stands out in these scenes. He's a scene stealer. So
Yeah.
He really, especially out of that gang, like the other ones, Jamie Kennedy and
Yeah.
the other dude, they're all pretty bad.
Yeah.
But then Mercutio comes along and brings us some much needed. Like
He's just so cool. He's so cool.
He is. Like you can see why he would be like the coolest one. Which makes me wonder why any of them. Oh no, they're all friends with Romeo because he's the son of the king or the son of the
for some reason,
person.
he's the only believable character where I'm like, oh yeah, he belongs in this world. I was like,
You're right.
He feels natural in that world. Well, everyone else I felt like is acting as these characters, but he felt natural in that role.
Yeah.
So
it's a shame he really didn't do more. Hey,
because his Lost character sucked.
His Lost character's good.
I super recognize him as
made bad choices.
I recognize his face, but I couldn't tell you what he's in. Obviously, you guys are saying he's in Lost, which I remember now. But
that's really the only thing.
Is he also in The Walking Dead?
No, that's another black guy. He's in.
Oh, gonna be in trouble here.
He's in. There's that show on at the moment called Evil or something. Or
he's in The Matrix. He's Link in The Matrix. Well, in the sequels.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
No,
he was also in that game, right? Like he was the. Do you guys remember that tie-in game that had Jada Pinkett Smith and him in it?
Into the Matrix.
It's a great game.
It was a great game. I'm not saying it wasn't.
Still the best Matrix.
He was in it, I think.
No, you're right. Oh, he's in the show From at the moment. That was 20. Yeah. So he's been doing small things, but just never had a big career. But he should have after this.
I don't know. I really enjoyed him in this movie. I think he was standout. This movie really, I don't know, this movie dragged for me when Leo's out in the boonies and he's missing letters and just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Wrap up now. I'm done.
Let's assess Shakespeare's quality.
Is that Shakespeare's fault?
Is that a lazy storytelling technique to be like you missed a letter and that's what causes you to die?
Kind of. I don't know.
It's more frustrating in this because I'm like, she's moving her hands on you.
Yeah, I know.
Like, why are you staring off at the ceiling, like whining and like, I'm gonna kill myself? Could you not feel her fingers move? She's just staring at you.
She was grief-stricken.
I mean, I think it's pretty well known that, like, while Shakespeare has survived the ages, he wasn't like he was writing pulpy stuff too, right? At the time.
Yeah.
He was writing popular stuff. Which, anyway. I don't want to be little Shakespeare, obviously, but
no. But this is.
I think Shakespeare should have structured the story.
He's could have done a lot of better job. Look, there is something interesting to this, right? Because a big criticism that I've seen towards this and all Shakespeare movies is Shakespeare is actually better read than watched, and I think there's some merit to that. Where like reading his plays and studying them, because studying things like the iambic pentameter. And getting an idea of, this is like a very technically profound work where he's followed a structure and he's got a point across and he creates words and it makes you feel something that you actually lose when you watch it because it happens so fast. And you're like, I'm not quite sure what he said. And you kind of lose the specifics. And a lot of Shakespeare's magic, I think, is actually in specifics. Like in one sentence, you'll be like, he's actually making an interesting joke that doubles about this. And he's commenting on testicles. So he's actually calling this guy a cuck. Whereas when that's said as a brief offhand comment, you don't appreciate that at all.
But I also think that's only interesting because it's in Shakespearean English to some extent, right? Like because you have to figure out that he's calling someone a cuck instead of him just saying "You are a cuck, sir." It's more interesting, right?
It is, but in the same way that today someone says, I don't know, someone makes a double entendre, and you're like, "Oh wait, you're actually calling me something else." Yeah. It's a good joke. There is a layer of like earned accomplishment with Shakespeare.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's hard to translate too. I don't know.
It is, but
I always enjoyed the works outside of Shakespeare. Like I don't know if you guys ever did Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are Dead or Waiting for Godot. Like there's some interesting works. Anyway.
Yeah. Point is, I think Shakespeare's interesting as he's an incredible Incredible's like the written word.
Yep.
As a stage play itself, it's a whole different element, which I don't know. I'm not brave enough to say, is he, to question Shakespeare.
Shakespeare is a hack. You heard it here first. Him and
Baz
Baz
Luhrmann,
belong together.
Shakespeare.
I don't know. I just think in today's political climate, we should really cancel Shakespeare. He's glorifying suicide. He's glorifying violence. That's just
True. In
I'm not
2023,
for it, man.
in 2023, this does not fly.
No, he didn't think that through.
All right, let's move on before we do get cancelled to Moulin Rouge. A poor bohemian poet in the 1890s Paris falls for a beautiful courtesan and nightclub star coveted by a jealous duke. This movie's way too long. Way too long.
Even though it's not like what, it's just over 2 hours, right? Like
Yeah,
2 hours and 10. It doesn't feel like that. It feels way longer than 2 hours and 10.
Yeah.
Growing up, you've seen the musical. Are you a fan of this movie?
No, and I didn't particularly enjoy it this time. I really enjoyed the musical, and like part of that is yes, it's the atmosphere and the night, but the story changes quite significantly too. And it's this is not the place to go into it, but it just felt tighter and better. And
Sorry, you go.
I was going to say, I know Conan's going to tell me that he doesn't like the modern music, the anachronistic music, like the...
Whoa. I might have that I have that written down, but don't put it in the box.
But I mean, they do that with updated music in the musical, and there's more of it, and I actually really enjoyed that too. So,
yeah, I don't mind that part.
Yeah, I like it. It's interesting to look at like his inspiration was Orpheus and Eurydice, and Orpheus was like a poet out of time, so that's why Ewan McGregor can write music that's using songs from the future. I don't know. That's fun.
What are those wanking? I hear wanking noises. I think.
I think that's fun. Screw you.
God, they should have had him doing some Eminem and stuff like that, and had some fun with it. But
Ewan McGregor should be called Slim Shady in this. That'd be a lot better. Like, I would be okay with that if they did it in a good I don't know, even the music in this movie, a movie that's all about music, the music is bad. Like, the singing,
nothing memorable for it.
Nothing memorable. Even Come What May is so flat and bland in every version they do. There's a part where they sing 3 lines from Smells Like Teen Spirit. And it's meant to just be like, hey, I know that song. And it's like, but they don't even do a good version of it.
It feels cheap.
It feels like a hack is going, if we put that in, people will go, I know that. It feels like an MCU cameo in 2001.
This was the origin of MCU cameos.
Exactly. Of fans going,
that's
I
cameo,
like music.
The most recent popular song, this one now.
Yes.
Now this one.
Amen. Like, none of the music in it's good. And I'm just like, this movie lives, like, that's all musicals. Musicals live and die on their songs. And there was something else we talked about. We're like, when the music isn't memorable, it does not function. And that's my whole thing with this. None of the music.
It was Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah, what a crappy film.
Which I was going to come in here and make comparisons between Baz Luhrmann and Tim Burton, but anyway. So I feel like they're both directors of it. They come in with their style.
Yeah, come in, they have something to say in their first film, and then they kind of lose it, don't they?
Potentially.
Almost like you could say a hack or something.
Oh,
I don't know if that's the word I'd use. But this movie's just so... And even like the whole idea of a love story where there's like, he writes a poem, and then she's just like, I love you. And he's like, hey, did you say I love you? And she's like,
yes. It's not even good or delivered good or...
Yeah, it's real.
Like reads the poem. She's just orgasming everywhere. It's just like this. I sort of went into this one thinking, okay, this is like the critically good one. Like I thought, okay, this will be the good one that it's got Ewan McGregor. I love Ewan McGregor. Like I want to see some Obi-Wan stuff in this. This will be cool, but I just really did not enjoy this film. I didn't enjoy the characters. I feel like this really has like it's a play, and obviously it's meant to be a musical and a play, and I wouldn't mind seeing this on stage, but in a film, it feels like bad overacting. John Leguizamo in this annoys the shit out of me.
He's such a
weird casting choice.
It's just really weird. His old group of friends are just annoying.
Apparently, he had to go through months of physiotherapy after this because he had to kneel so much to be.
It's on his knees the whole time.
It's strange, and I mean, what a movie to risk your knees for, right? Like,
But
Yeah, it hasn't aged well either. No.
No, that choice is not great.
yeah, and it's just I don't know. I feel like it just does just drag, and it's like, okay, like it's one of them things where you can see the 3 steps ahead. You're like, okay, I know where this is going, and this is going to happen, and this is going to be the obstacle. But then it just takes ages to get into it, and you're already ahead of it. You're already like, okay, I know, when are we going to get to that part of the story? Because obviously this is where it's going. And yeah, it was a bit of a chore to watch.
Yeah, I feel like you know the love triangle very early on, like a third of the way through the movie, and you know about Satine's illness about halfway through the movie. That's like, you know exactly how this movie is going to end then, basically, and it takes a long time to get there.
Well, even like from the very opening scene, he's like clearly all despair ridden and he's washed up writing.
Yeah,
and it's like in the first half an hour, as soon as you meet Satine after a song, she coughs up blood.
Yes,
and so it's really early on. You're like, okay, cool, she dies. And
anybody, if you cough on screen, you're going to die, right? Like,
well, if you cough blood, 100%.
Yes, there's no
you
chance.
got that TB, you're gone.
You got the. And so then, it's just waiting around for it. In stage play, do they cut out the whole show within a show? You know, where they're putting on the satir lover.
No. There's still spectacular. There's still the show within the show. It's not based on a Maharaja. Like, it's not an Indian thing. I guess for me, do you guys care about me talking about the stage show? Because I don't want to go into it if you guys don't care.
You can spoil it.
I'd rather do that than talk about this movie.
I guess the thing for me, like watching this movie not long after having seen the stage show, it's a lot sexier, if you will. There's a lot. I don't know. Like, this movie is not like Nicole Kidman does nothing for me. The dancers are all very dressed up, but there's nothing risque about it. The stage show is kind of risque, and that's kind of fun, right?
Yeah.
The Duke is hot. He's not some creepy, weird, sniveling little man. He's just he's kind of a bad guy, but he's also like, there's a genuine choice for Satine to make there. Do I go with the guy who can give me security and, you know, can look after me, or do I go with the poor bohemian artist? Like, she actually has a choice to make there, whereas here, like, there's no choice. Like, she's not going to choose the Duke. He's a sniveling little weakling little man. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then the stage show concentrates on a handful of characters, whereas this, I feel like they're very, very focused on Nicole Kidman and Ewan McGregor, and I don't know, the other characters aren't that interesting in this, but they're fleshed out more in the stage show, and they're actually kind of interesting. Like, you get a whole backstory for John Leguizamo's character. He's not a little person. About how he used to love Satine and tried to, because there's that weird scene where he's like spying on them and he cries because he sees Ewan McGregor.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and
there's a whole like backstory that's fleshed out in the musical about how they grew up together and all this stuff. And like, even the narcoleptic guy has a whole story with one of the because there's the 4 Lady Marmalade girls. So that each of them kind of has a bit of a story, and he falls in love with one of them. It's actually, I don't know, it felt a lot better put together than this movie. This movie felt like it was just too focused on that love triangle that wasn't that interesting, and you knew exactly where it was going to go.
Yeah, it spends 2 hours, and it doesn't. For such a long movie, that it's really shallow. There's not a whole lot of depth to any of the other.
No,
but even to their relationship, it's pretty flat. Like, you learn that his dad doesn't want him to come, and that he believes in love and he believes in poetry.
Yeah,
and her story is just, I don't know. I'm a courtesan. Like, that sucks.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's very strange. Because it's all about the theatrics. I had this note written down though. Don't usually say this, but this needs more full frontal nudity. The exact same thought. I'm like, in a thing that's all like, the Moulin Rouge is this like the ultimate sin house of pleasure where bohemians go to like give into squalor. I'm like, there's nothing like salacious about this at all. It is PG, baby.
Yeah.
But now if you've just got some gaping private parts, I'm like, yeah, this place is nuts. What's going on?
The stage show, like, they just had hotties, and they were just like for the half an hour while you're all filing in, they're just walking around the stage silently staring at you. It's awesome. Like, it's a really good atmosphere. We had the best time. It's so much more risque than this movie was.
But did it have Ewan McGregor?
No, but it had another guy who sang really well and seemed very charming. And like even his character seemed better in this. Like he just seemed like a down on his luck artist who kind of made it big. Not this. Yeah, I don't know. Not this. Like there was a lot less of I believe in love over everything. Like that's his only character trait in this movie. It seems like.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, this movie is totally the one, like, because this was such a hit. We've talked about it before. Everybody loved it. And I think this is where it really, Baz kind of splits into two camps, where if you love musicals, if you love the theatrics, if you love that stuff, this movie will work for you because it is just costumes and music and, like, what is it? One of these reviews, Roger Ebert gave this really high rating because he's like, it's all just color, energy, music. I'm like, yeah, if that's your thing,
He's filled with bad opinions.
it's true. Roger Ebert, bad critic.
He's
Every
prolific.
time,
Man, he
every
has
time
some
you bring
opinions.
him up on this podcast, it's with a shitty opinion. I'm
That's
sorry.
the funny thing
That's
about him.
not true.
The only reason people talk about him still is for his reviews that have aged poorly. I feel like
Home Alone 3.
I feel like that is his legacy.
No, good
kind
taste,
of.
good taste. Yeah, because he was a critic who believed and had something to say, and that's why we remember him. He was not a. But yeah, this is the one where even the other two films, you can be like, even if you don't enjoy musicals, you can get something out of it. Whereas this one, it's like if you do not speak the language, you cannot. Like, there's nothing here for you because all the true good merits of movie making are gone. Baz has nothing to say. He's got no genuine thing. He's just like, yeah, love is a motivator, right? People believe in love and poetry.
Like,
and then he's just like, baby, make some costumes for me, please. And they do.
Do we think this movie is better? Like, would be better than the Cats movie?
I'd put them on par. I'd put them on par.
I think we'd have to watch Cats.
I think maybe. No, I think you're overestimating Cats. But like even as a musical, I think this movie's not that great. Like
exactly.
Like even some classic musicals, like the Sound of Music. Like this movie references that musical, but that's got the songs make a lot of sense in that movie. Like they fit in with the atmosphere of what's going on. And you're right, they're not trying to shove in all this anachronistic music. Like there's one original piece in this whole movie. Yeah, it just doesn't.
This whole movie
is
about music, and my takeaway from the whole trilogy is Time After Time from Strictly Ballroom. That's the song that stuck with me. Where I'm like, oh, I remember that song in that movie.
Yeah, like, really good use of music.
You know, and that's it. So
yeah. It's just, I feel like he hit the mark for a movie. They say all about music. Not great at music, but
it's kind of a fatal flaw.
Does
it's pretty important.
We haven't seen Nicole Kidman yet in our podcast. She does nothing for me. Does nothing for me in this movie. How do you guys feel about her? Just curious. Like
there was a TV show
because she's the other Australian, goddess. I guess we put her up on a pedestal as well as one of the great Australians.
Yeah, she's a pretty big deal.
She's
probably Australian. Yeah.
Well, what's funny? Just a side tangent. A couple of years ago, my wife and I had an argument over who was a bigger star, Hugh Jackman or Nicole Kidman, like as an Aussie star.
It's Hugh Jackman by a mile.
I was saying Hugh Jackman.
No.
She said Nicole Kidman. I put it up on Facebook as a poll. It got 2 votes. One person voted Hugh Jackman, one person voted Nicole
inconclusive.
It's never been settled.
Democracy doesn't work, man.
But I was like, no. I was like, and maybe it's a modern sense. I feel like more people now obviously know Hugh Jackman than Nicole Kidman, but I feel like it's always been like that. Hugh Jackman, X-Men was like 2000.
Yeah, but when this movie came out, it was bigger than X-Men. X-Men was still kind of like the nerd movie, right, at that time.
Yeah, because X-Men had just come out a year before. It was not the phenomenon it was. Oh, no, sorry, X-Men comes out the year after. Spider-Man had just come out the year before. Is that right? One of them was in 2000. I don't know.
I think Spider-Man was 2000. You're right. Yep.
Yeah. Hugh Jackman is more of the kind of the movie star that everyone knows who he is, but I think Nicole Kidman is the bigger actor celebrity. Looking at her filmography, right? So you have got Eyes Wide Shut, which is very much her and Tom Cruise, but she is a big selling point. The Others is all about Nicole Kidman. The Hours is sold on her, Meryl Streep. Like all these movies, just the cover. The Stepford Wives is literally just her face. Cold Mountain is her face. The Interpreter is her face. I just don't think
any of those movies are very good.
No, I'm not saying she is not she's made a lot of movies I don't care for, but she is a very constantly working in big film. Standard sort of moderate films that make money and people saw. She's just been working on and on and on.
X-Men did better at the box office in 2000 than Moulin Rouge did.
Yeah.
And then X2 did even bigger than that.
But Nicole Kidman was big before Moulin Rouge.
Yeah.
Yeah,
BMX
so
Bandits.
was Nicole Kidman on Neighbours or anything?
Yeah, I think she was like way back in the day.
Yeah,
She was
okay.
in-
But
Telling
Baz
you,
Luhrmann was on a
Bandits.
country practice.
I bet. So that's the thing. Like Nicole Kidman speaking on I really haven't seen much of her stuff. Like I don't know. I know she was in a show a couple of years ago.
Yeah, Big Little Lies.
Big Little Lies. I haven't watched it,
Huge. Very
but
good.
apparently she was really good in it. My wife watched it and she loved it. So yeah.
She's become a TV actress recently.
What was she on recently? She was in a movie recently.
I don't know. Like she's in a show called Expats. She's in a show called Special. She's become on
Aquaman?
TV. Yeah, she's in Aquaman. That's right. She's been Northman.
Northman. That's
Like this.
yeah.
You look at her filmography. Every year she has got 2 or 3 things. Like she just does not stop. Hugh Jackman makes like one movie every 5 years.
Yeah.
And I think we talked about as an X-Men. Hugh Jackman's actually got a pretty spotty career. Like besides Wolverine, he's a bit.
Yeah.
He's a bit how you going.
Until recently, where he's become kind of this musical star, where he's in every musical that comes out. But
The Greatest Showman, and I mean,
Ladies
I don't know.
and
Real Steel,
Real Steel,
banger,
Real
Prisoners.
It's
how
fine.
settled.
Yeah,
Prisoners is great.
No, I'm not that I like Hugh Jackman, but it's just I think people are like Hugh Jackman's the greatest Aussie actor. I'm like, nah, he's fine in this what he does. He's good in stand out in 2
Who is
roles,
the biggest? Oh, I mean,
I think we should watch Australia. They're both in it. Which one's better?
Awful
and that
movie.
will settle to the debate.
No, I don't want to watch
I
Australia.
think
either.
That's as long as a trilogy.
I think Nicole Kidman is like Margot Robbie is the new Nicole Kidman.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
So I reckon that's because Nicole Kidman had the same like element of sort of like sex appeal / talented actor qualities back in like the early 2000s that we're sort of seeing Margot do now. So I reckon I think that's a good. And to your point, Griner, Margot Robbie doesn't do anything for me. I do not get the people's passion about her. And so, very similar.
And
have you
Liam
seen The Wolf of
Hemsworth?
Wall Street?
Is he the new Hugh Jackman?
Who?
Liam Hemsworth.
Why Liam?
Yeah, could we go Luke?
Oh, what do we want to go with his brother Chris?
Luke
nothing.
Hemsworth. Luke Hemsworth. Good brother.
All right, we're getting off track. Let's rank these movies. Let's get done.
All right.
For me,
Strictly Ballroom.
Yep.
Romeo Juliet.
Yeah.
Moulin Rouge.
Not even a question.
With a bullet. Yeah.
Look at that.
Just gets
All
worse
in
and
agreement
worse.
again.
Old
I
Baz.
think you guys all agreed with me on the movies. It's just that you really hate Baz Luhrmann, where I'm like, yeah, but how can you hate him when he made Strictly Ballroom?
Because I believe in art and I believe in love. I am actually a bohemian. I'm like him. He's the Duke
You
in
would
this
consider
scenario.
yourself a bohemian, actually.
Hey, can barely afford to pay rent. Slaving away at my novel.
Bohemian.
It's true.
Hey.
I bet Baz Luhrmann's not feeling the cost of living crisis.
No, I reckon he's the one who's like, I could take anyone I want with all my money, with all my Gatsby money. The prick.
All right.
Have you watched Great Gatsby, Grana? You didn't like it?
No,
did
I
you?
haven't. I don't intend to. Apparently, Elvis is not bad. I will probably end up watching.
Is that the
Elvis.
most recent one with
Yes.
Austin Butler?
Yeah.
I've
Yes.
heard. I didn't know. Baz
I had
Luhrmann did that.
very mixed stuff. Anyway,
My wife's into those biopics at the moment. She watched the Elton John one the other day, so no doubt Elvis is next.
it's coming up.
All right, Conan, you're up next. What are we watching this
All right.
fortnight?
We're doing the Agatha Christie Kenneth Branagh trilogy. So I don't know. It'll probably have some more additions in the future, but it's Murder on the Orient Express, Death on the Nile, and A Haunting in Venice. The modern version, so 2017, 2022, 2023.
I am keen as a bean. I have had a desire to watch these films, but I'm very glad I haven't actually watched them, ever gotten around to watch them. So now I have an excuse to watch them.
Well, I just read the book, The Murder, and so now I'm like, cool, I can watch this now.
So
I
sorry,
grew
it's
up-
Murder on the Orient Express, Death on the Nile, and A Haunting in Venice. Is that right?
Yeah. So Agatha Christie Poirot mysteries with Kenneth Branagh as Poirot.
I grew up, like my whole house, my parents just watched Agatha Christie's Poirot, the TV show. It's
with,
just all that played at my house with the little dude with the weird mustache.
Yeah,
It just bothered me.
what's his name?
Hercule Poirot, and I just didn't like. But it's like nostalgia, so yeah, it'll be interesting to watch a good version.
Slight
Well,
changes.
maybe.
Did you guys have to watch Kenneth Branagh's Othello in high school?
You mean Hamlet?
Hamlet. Sorry, yes, wrong one.
That
Was it not Othello?
Kicks
I thought it
ass,
was
really
Othello.
good.
Yeah, it is.
I think
There's
it's
some fun scenes in that movie.
Yeah, I think that's the best. Probably the best Shakespeare adaptation made.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us for the good, the bad, and the worst. I apologise for putting you through another fortnight of
One
musicals.
for the as the 2024.
Don't worry, I'll find another musical trilogy for 2025. We'll get there.
Yeah.
This podcast was brought to you by a Bohemian book by C.V. Clarke, The God Grotesque.
Love.
Check it out. There's lots of love in there. It's available on Amazon. Please rank us, rate us, share us around, give us a rating on Spotify. We'd really appreciate it. It helps us out heaps.
If you're watching this on YouTube, comment what you'd like us to watch.
Give us a like. What trilogy haven't we done yet? All right. Catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye, my famichi.